Welcome to TFAI.
He'll be dormant. Shockwave will be
Starscream,
restarting.
the number 2 forever
He'll
and
find the
ever.
message I left for the last commit. He'll suspend to disk when
All
he
right.
computes the part
Buckle
that
up,
says I'm
because today
leaving.
we are going deep on
'Cause
Starscream.
I've
Boy,
left
excellent
that
choice.
part
You know, we
so
always
many
get
times.
tons of requests for a Starscream deep dive.
Right.
And you've sent over a ton of great material on him. We've got wiki entries, we've got old cartoon recaps, even some old toy descriptions.
Some real deep cuts there. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a blast.
He really is one of those villains that you just love to hate,
Yeah,
but there's surprising depth to him.
totally.
You know, when
Yeah.
you really get into it, almost Shakespearean in a way.
Yeah. You always think of him as Megatron's, like, scheming second in command.
Right.
Always trying to take over, but never quite getting there.
Exactly.
So why don't we start with the basics? You sent over this great wiki entry, and it really paints a picture of him.
Sure.
Like it says right here, his defining trait, ambition. He is convinced that he should be the one ruling the Decepticons.
Of course.
And he will backstab anyone to get what he wants.
Well, he does have a knack for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
That's true.
But it's that constant striving that keeps us coming back for more.
It's true. It's true.
That's a pattern as old as storytelling itself.
Yeah.
The villain who just can't seem to win but never gives up trying.
It's so true. And speaking of never giving up, in this G1 recap you sent for the episode Deadly Paradise, Starscream actually accidentally kicks off the whole war on Earth.
Oh, how so?
He takes a pot shot at the Autobots' crashed ship, and it sends Optimus Prime's body right into the Teletrion Eye restoration beam, and boom,
Yeah.
war.
Classic Starscream. A perfect example of his ambition and, let's face it, incompetence.
Yes.
Often creating more chaos than he ever intended.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not even always about wanting power.
Right.
He wants to be the smartest, the most cunning in the room.
Absolutely.
Which reminds me of that other bit you dug up about his time leading the Combaticons.
Oh, yes.
What a disaster. He just can't seem to wrap his head around the fact that leadership involves more than just barking orders.
Well, it really makes you wonder, was Starscream always this way?
Right.
The background you found on his past as a scientist, that was interesting.
Yeah. He was this respected researcher before the war.
Mm-mm.
So was there like a single event that flipped a switch and put him on this road to treachery?
Right.
Or was it always there under the surface?
You know, it's the classic nature versus nurture debate,
Exactly.
even with giant robots.
Even with giant robots.
Yeah. And you see different Transformers writers leaning into those different aspects of his character.
Right.
Some portray him as this inherently power-hungry bot,
Sure.
while others suggest maybe outside forces, Megatron's cruelty even, played a role in shaping him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And speaking of different series, we have got to talk about Starscream's wild ride through all the different Transformers universes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it gets crazy.
It really does.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
We've got him possessing Waspinator in Beast Wars.
Right.
We've got him turning into this giant disembodied head in the Prime Wars trilogy.
Don't forget, he was briefly the emperor of the Klingons.
Oh, right. You can't make this stuff up.
It's wild.
It's amazing.
But it speaks to his adaptability as a character. You can drop Starscream into any story, and he still works as Starscream. He's this archetype, the ambitious, scheming, second in command, always angling for more power that just resonates across different genres, different universes.
It makes you wonder, what is it about that archetype that is so enduring?
Right.
And what is it about Starscream specifically that keeps us coming back for more, even when we know he's going to mess it up?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's easy to think of Starscream as, I don't know.
One-dimensional.
Yeah.
Just this cackling, power-hungry.
Exactly. But your research brought up some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Like you included this whole section about his friendship with Skyfire back before the war. Like they were actually partners
Yeah.
studying ancient Cybertronian relics and everything.
That's a detail that often gets overlooked, I find.
Yep.
But it adds a fascinating layer to him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we see a different Starscream in those moments.
Mm.
One that's capable of loyalty and genuine connection.
And it makes his betrayal of Skyfire when they chose different sides.
Right.
Like
It's
even more,
poignant.
yeah, more tragic.
Yeah.
There's even that scene, I think it was from the cartoon, where Skyfire saves Starscream from an ice avalanche, and then Starscream betrays him like seconds later.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, was it a calculated move on Starscream's part? Or was there some flicker of regret there?
It's like those little moments of possible regret or even fear that make him more than just a punchline.
Right.
Like in Deadly Paradise, you pointed out that moment where he's about to shoot Megatron in the back and he hesitates for like a split second, but still.
It's a tell. It shows us that he's not just some mindless automaton following orders or driven purely by ambition. There's something else going on in that Cybertronian noggin.
It's like we all know that person, or maybe we are that person
What?
who acts tough but secretly overthinks everything.
100%. Always self-sabotaging before anyone else gets the chance.
Yes. And that's where the relatability comes in, I think.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, he wants to rule the galaxy, but those insecurities, the fear of failure, that's human, you know?
Absolutely. And that complexity, I think that's what elevates him above a lot of the other Decepticons.
Totally.
He's not just a brute like Blitzwing or a yes-man like Soundwave.
He's got layers. So we've got this ambitious, insecure, occasionally capable of loyalty Decepticon.
Right.
But after decades of losses and betrayals and some really embarrassing transformations,
Some real low points.
what's the enduring legacy of Starscream? Why do people still love this guy?
Because deep down, Starscream's a survivor.
He gets blown up like every other week.
And he always comes back. Maybe not stronger, necessarily.
Right.
But he comes back.
He does come back.
He embodies this resilience, this utter refusal to stay down.
It's true, yeah. No matter how many times Megatron blasts him or his plans blow up in his face, he dusts himself off and starts scheming again.
And I think that persistence, even in the face of overwhelming odds, that resonates with people.
Right.
It speaks to that part of us that roots for the underdog, even when that underdog is, a treacherous Decepticon.
Yeah, everyone loves a comeback story, even if it's a giant robot that turns into a fighter jet.
Exactly. And speaking of comebacks, you had in your notes Starscream's brief time as the Emperor of the Klingons.
Oh, right.
That's a comeback story for the ages.
Who else could be a disembodied head ruling an alien empire? Only Starscream, I think.
It's perfect.
It's those moments of, I don't know, just complete absurdity
Right.
that add another layer to his appeal.
He's just so entertaining, even when he's failing spectacularly.
Yeah.
That's rare, especially in a villain.
Okay, so he's a survivor, he's entertaining, he's surprisingly complex.
Right.
But there's something else about his popularity, something that feels a little uncomfortably insightful about us, the audience.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, no, you're really making me think about this. Like, we admire heroes for their courage, their, selflessness. But what does it say about us that we're drawn to a character like Starscream, who's kind of the opposite?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what we were talking about with the relatability factor.
Okay.
Starscream may be a villain,
Yeah.
but his flaws, the ambition, the insecurity, that need for validation, I mean, who hasn't felt that at some point?
Yeah, like, we know we shouldn't be rooting for the guy who tries to overthrow his leader every other week.
Right.
But there's that tiny part of us, maybe it's the part that feels overlooked or, like, underestimated, that just can't help but be drawn to that relentless pursuit of power, even if it's totally misguided.
Yeah, and there's something about a character who just point blank refuses to accept his place,
Right.
Even when that place is reinforced again and again through failure.
He's like the definition of, if at first you don't succeed, blow something up and try again.
Right.
Which, not a good life strategy, by the way.
Not recommended. But that's where the whole cautionary tale element comes in.
Yeah.
Because as fun as Starscream's antics can be,
Yeah.
his story is ultimately kind of a tragedy, right?
Right.
He's consumed by his own ambition, blinded by his ego, and it always leads to his downfall.
It's like watching that friend, I think we all have one, who's convinced they're always right, even when everyone else is like, dude, you're headed for a train wreck.
Right.
Like, you want to shake him and say, there's another way.
Exactly.
But Starscream, he's not exactly the best at listening, is he?
No, he's not known for his humility. And I think that's the real tragedy of it,
Yeah.
He never really learns from his mistakes. He's trapped in this cycle of ambition, betrayal, and ultimately self-destruction.
So after all this, what's the takeaway here? What can we learn from this whole Starscream saga?
Well, I think it's a good reminder that ambition, while super important, can be a double-edged sword. Like, it's great to have goals, to strive for more,
Sure.
but not at the cost of your integrity, your friendships, your own well-being. Right?
That's about balance, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, we all have a bit of Starscream in us, right? That desire to prove ourselves, climb to the top.
For sure.
But it's about I don't know, maybe channeling that ambition in a healthy way.
Right.
Learning from those inevitable mistakes.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, not trying to take over the world every Tuesday.
Maybe skip that part.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, I think we did a pretty good job diving deep into the mind of everyone's favorite treacherous Decepticon.
I think so, yeah. We covered a lot of ground, from his days as a scientist to that whole Klingon Emperor thing.
It was a wild ride.
It really was.
And we even explored some surprisingly deep questions about ambition, failure, and why we love villains who never seem to learn their lesson.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has. And for you, the listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the complexity of, well, even the most seemingly one-dimensional characters.
Because you never know.
Exactly. Sometimes those are the most interesting stories.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, even in a giant transforming robot universe, there's always more than meets the eye.
But he'll just hear that communicator keep on pinging. I'm being reborn as Galvatron, that's all. So all. Shortly after I make Cybertron, he'll be hibernating. He'll wake swiftly and call my name so loud, and he'll scream 'cause Unicron is destroying Cybertron.